Okay. I call this meeting to order. Are there any declarations of interest?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
PDS 2020-20.
Okay. And that clerk's in, you have that?
Yeah, I
Okay,
advised the clerk already.
that's fine. Adoption of agenda, I've got mover Councillor Longo and seconder Councillor Sentence. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of minutes. Council meeting minutes of March 31st, 2020. I've got Councillor Kenny as the mover, Councillor Neal as the seconder. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Make sure you raise your hand clearly so I can see, please. Okay, Mayor's report. On behalf of Council, I would like to thank City staff for the exceptional work they are doing during these COVID-19 pandemic unprecedented times. Our focus from the beginning has been to protect the health and safety of the public and our employees. All 12 municipalities, in conjunction with the region, are working together on many strategic initiatives. The Niagara Rapid Response Team to support businesses of all sizes in Niagara has been established. More information can be found at info@niagaracanada.com. Much of my time is spent working on this initiative with local businesses to address their issues and concerns and provide a conduit to the information and programs available at the federal and provincial level. The ongoing Stay Home Niagara media campaign, which has included 2 separate robocall messages, as well as print advertising, radio advertising, and digital online advertising. Please continue to follow the extremely important messaging. It's no time to let up. To access any financial assistance or programs that are or will become available from the federal and provincial governments, and to assist revenue shortfalls the municipalities are facing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this is another initiative all 12 municipalities with the region are working on to make sure we address the needs of all municipalities in Niagara. We are voicing our concerns, offering suggestions and solutions that would be beneficial to all municipalities. We have come together during these unprecedented times and shown what the true City of Thorold community spirit is all about. 2 food drives with many volunteers, including Councillors Hanley, Sentence, and Decker, as well as a very generous donor, all stepped up to help on those drives. Many financial and food donations to our local food banks, an Easter turkey dinner fundraising put on by Donnelly's Pub, which raised $1,500 for community care, and the support our frontline workers, our heroes, t-shirt campaign involving Thorold Business Impact Promotions and Heart of Niagara Hotels, where every $20 t-shirt purchased, $15 will go directly to the Niagara Health Service system for protecting frontline workers. 2 other good news stories. Marlene Hamilton, owner of Thorold business Heart Designs, is producing scrub caps and headbands with buttons to ease the strain from wearing medical masks all day. She is donating them to hospitals, including all those in the Niagara Health System. Matt Nault, volunteer firefighter at Station 2 in Thorold South, and a large group of volunteers are producing and donating face shields under the name Frontlines First, Niagara's free PPE initiative. These are just some of the examples of Thorold's community spirit and involvement by everyone in the community. Many residents are also checking in on those in need, running errands, and making sure that they are doing fine. Let's keep this community-minded spirit up moving forward. Please check the City of Thorold website and social media sites often for updates. There is a special section on our website front page dedicated to COVID-19 news, including media releases. In closing, on behalf of the City of Thorold, I would like to offer our heartfelt condolences to the families and friends of the victims of the senseless shootings in Nova Scotia this past weekend. And that ends my mayor's report. Now I'll move on to, there's no public meetings, regional councilor updates, civic recognition, presentations. Were no motions for council support, so we're into motions to receive and file minutes or adopt recommendation of councils, committees, or boards. There's nothing on that too. And statement by councilors. I have Councilor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was speaking with the clerk earlier this week, and I just brought up the, as you know, we delegated authority to yourself and the CAO in March, and I'm wondering, now that we're running regular council meetings, we have the ability, if we should, I guess, revoke that power and hand it back to council as a whole.
So I'm going to get our Fire Chief, Terry Dixon, to speak on this. Are you there, Terry?
Yes, I'm here, Mayor. Starting that through you, Mayor, to Councilor Longo, there's a few reasons why it's necessary to keep the delegation of power bylaw in place for the duration of the emergency. The first one that comes to mind, the sensitive matters that should one take place during this pandemic that requires immediate attention. We need the authority to conduct that type of business immediately. Secondly, the delegation of power is a mechanism that we would use in an extreme case. Hopefully it never happens. In an extreme case that council becomes ill or absenteeism during this emergency, that we have enough, we have the power to make those decisions without having to have a quorum for council. The likelihood of needing this authority is going to be very limited, obviously, with things looking positive in the public health area right now. But this doesn't change anything we do today. Now that we're having meetings, we're going to start having regular council meetings now. Council will assume business as usual, but it's just that safeguard that we have from the community emergency management coordinator position that I feel it's necessary that we keep that delegation until the emergency is over. There are a few other points. I can have City Clerk Donna speak on them as well.
I'll turn that over to City Clerk Donna Delvecchio.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the other points I would add to that is if we needed to call a special council meeting, there's about a 2 to 3 day turnaround time that we would require in order to meet. And if we had a time-sensitive matter that we had to deal with, time's of the essence, and we may not be able to formally come together.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak on that? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted clarification. That's fine. I guess as long as those are the only circumstances that we would use it, I'm fine with it.
Okay. And so far, you know that any time that we've used it, we've gone to council first and asked if there was an issue, if you wanted to call a meeting. We're more than open. Our goal is to do all business in council meetings.
Right.
Okay.
I'm totally aware of that, and I wasn't questioning anybody's power. I just am a true believer in democracy, and I thought if it was time, we would hand it back to council. But I'm fine with the explanation.
Okay, is everybody good? Councillor, go ahead. I got Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question to Donna. So does that mean that they would make the calls in a case of emergency, but not the general things we're discussing in our meetings, right? Correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Okay. Is everybody good?
Yep.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up, Councillor Longo. And that's all we have under that, and we're going to move on to delegations to report. Is he ready? Delegations to report. We have Mark Warren, Peter J. Lesto Architects, report of the interim director of planning and development services report PDS 2020-20. And I'll wait for him to come on.
Yes. It's Peter.
Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Did I leave the meeting?
What? You're going to be put on hold.
Okay.
You disappeared.
Magic.
Are we ready here? Okay, go ahead, Peter.
Want me to talk?
I mean, Mark, sorry.
Oh, it's Peter. It's Peter. Peter that is now speaking.
Oh, okay, Peter, go ahead.
We have an application for a minor variance that occurs on Turner's Corners, Merrittville Highway and Highway 20. And what the gist of that application is that when you have a restaurant, in this particular case, that would have approximately 32 seats, it would require 13 parking spaces. Now, this is based on an older bylaw. When we applied for the site plan agreement, it was a few years back, so the older bylaw applies. Your bylaw has been updated since. But what happens when you do a drive-through is that the number of parking spaces required increases exponentially to something like 53 spaces. And it doesn't make much sense to do that. In our application, there's two things to consider with it. When you have a restaurant, it says 1 space required for 4 square meters of public floor area. And when you have a restaurant drive-through, it says gross floor area. So in this particular instance, it also says that it needs to accommodate like 4 vehicles in the aisle as they go through. In the design that we provided, I think we have 12. We have more? We have 15 queuing things going through that area. So what the request is that the bylaw amended accordingly, that it would be more like a restaurant drive-through would have 1 space per 4 square meters of public floor area instead of gross floor area, plus a waiting lane accommodating a minimum of 4 vehicles. So that's pretty much it. So if we have a restaurant, it is 13 parking spaces for the 32 seats. The minute we add a drive-through, the parking requirements jump to 50 spaces. What we did was we did an analysis also what other municipalities are doing, because I wrote a whole thing. I don't know if anybody read it, but in it we did an analysis of what other municipalities are doing, and if it was a restaurant in St. Catharines with the similar conditions, it would require 10.445 spaces, rounded down to 10. In Niagara Falls, same condition. They don't have a drive-through specific requirement. It would be 6.4 spaces, rounded down to 6. City of Port Colborne, they have a drive-through criteria, and it would be 10.45. In Fort Erie, they don't have a drive-through specific requirement, and it would be 8. So the other municipalities, we're providing 13 in this application. So you know, it would be satisfied, and the people that are driving through in the queuing lanes, they're, you know, coffee or sandwich or whatever they're doing, and then just drive away. So what we think is there was a mistake made, and this is sort of a housekeeping kind of application, that the way the former bylaw was written, it seems to be there was a flaw in it, that there was, the way it's worded, it wasn't that logical. The second thing was the people that own the property, they're requesting that medical practitioners could also be another use added to the site. It makes sense considering it's kind of central within the area of Fonthill, Welland, as well as Thorold. And they've had interest from different medical practitioners to actually occupy this building. With respect to your planning department, my understanding is they didn't see any issue with that. Because right now your bylaw basically, for that particular site, it says offices of a combined floor area not greater than 185 square meters in any one building, which would be approximately almost 2,000 square feet. The clinic would be the same thing like an office, whether it would be an engineer, whether it be an architect, whether it be a doctor, engineer. It would provide the same professional service to the public. So that would be the second request of the minor variance, that we're allowed to provide a medical clinic that is used by qualified medical practitioners, osteopaths, or other drugless practitioners. It would have treatment rooms, laboratory, administrative offices, waiting rooms, and facilities for at least one practitioner, and used for public or private medical, surgical, physical, therapeutic, or other human health purposes, and may have an auxiliary dispensary associated with the clinic, but is not a hospital or a pharmacy and does not provide overnight accommodations. So, am I clear? Is there any questions on what I'm saying?
Do we have any questions for Peter? Seeing none, Peter, I thank you so much for your presentation.
I appreciate that. And I don't know if, as I said, I wrote a 2-3 page thing that I don't want to read the whole thing out. If you've already read it, it's pretty self-explanatory of what it is that we're requesting. So thank you for.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on to consent reports. I have 3 consent reports. Is there anybody that wants to pull a consent report before I bring them forward? Seeing none, I got mover, Councillor Wilson, seconder, Councillor Hanley. Move all 3 consent reports. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We move on to discussion reports. The first one up is CAO 2020-01, Financial Planning During COVID-19 Pandemic. I have mover Councillor Longo, seconder Councillor DeRose, and I'll turn that over to our CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations are that the report CAO 2020-01 be received for information purposes. Second, that no changes be made to the 2020 operating and capital budgets. Number 3, that should there be any net savings, that they be applied firstly to any unknown expenses that may be incurred due to COVID-19 pandemic, and secondly, any balance remaining be applied to the capital asset renewal shortfall which was deferred at budget time. And lastly, staff will prepare additional reports should a deviation from the above be required. And that concludes the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and I'll turn that over now to questions. Anyone have any questions for our CAO? Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I ask, I see that the report was written by the Human Resources Department. Can I ask why it wasn't the Director of Finance that submitted the report, and the report wasn't done by the Finance Department?
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, every department and every department head has provided input to it. and extensively it is written by our Director of Public Works and also by our Director of Finance, Maria Moro. The reason why it was written by Public Work, by the human resource journalist, because of the staffing issue associated with it. Unfortunately, the way our report works, that we cannot put a number of different staff members who have contributed towards the report. So that's the reason why we have seen only one name. But if you can read the report right up front and also in the concluding, it has been every department head has provided extensive input. In fact, the entire pro forma that you see as an attachment to the report has been prepared by our finance department, by the Director of Finance. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, if I could, Mr. Mayor, I got a few of them. I see that
Go ahead.
in here mentioning about the employees that in regards to rehiring seasonal workers, that we're going to not be rehiring seasonal workers. That concerns me because actually 13 days ago on April the 8th, the federal government, Justin Trudeau, announced that temporary changes in the Canada Summer Jobs Program that would help employers hire summer staff and provide young Canadians access to the jobs they need during this unprecedented time. The program would help create up to 70,000 jobs for youth between 15 and 30 years of age. Businesses increasingly depend on the employment of young Canadians. The changes to this Canada Summer Jobs Program will help small businesses and hire keep the workers they need. I can't see anywhere where I read that municipalities wouldn't be eligible, because it actually states that the private and public sector employees could receive up to 100% of the provincial territorial minimum hourly wage. I tried to see, maybe I could see, maybe Maria is here, she can answer that, but if we're eligible for this funding, because it's saying that it's allowing it for employers to hire staff on a part-time basis, and these changes will help youth stay connected to the labor market, save money for their future, and find quality jobs in safe, inclusive, and healthy work environments. That's one of my questions. Can I ask why can we or can we not access this funding so that we do not have to terminate these employees?
I will turn. Did you want to answer that, Donna, or do you want to answer it, Manoj? But I know that we have applications in for that. But go ahead, or I'll turn that over to Joanne.
We do have an application in for the Canada Summer Jobs. And I did hear about the announcement on April 8th. So on April 9th, I contacted our coordinator, and she said that there's no changes to the program at this point, and more information is expected to come early May.
Does that answer that part, Councillor Hanlon?
Yes, on that note then, if it does come to fruition that we are able to access this grant money, and seeing that we terminated these individuals or we've not going to hire them and we've given them that notice, can we do something maybe to put them on hold? Because then opportunity may arise for them elsewhere.
Okay, I'll now turn that over to our CAO. Go ahead, Manoj.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, as pointed out in our report, that once more details are available, we will be investigating if the city is able to get financial support to allow us for bringing on some of the seasonal outdoor staff to assist with the service delivery as this program become more clear to us. And if we can able to receive 100% funding out of it, certainly we will bring seasonal staff. We don't not going to shortchange ourselves if the funding is available through the upper levels of government. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I got another one too in regards to transit, if I could, Mr. Mayor.
Go
I
ahead.
don't see anything in there in regards to transit services. If we're going to reduce transit services, but I knew for a fact that we are going to have a loss in regards to the revenue that we generate from Brockton. There probably already has been a loss, and want to know why this isn't part of the factors in the numbers that we had before as transit. And have we reduced services?
I'll turn that over again to our CAO.
Through Mr. Mayor, if you look at the pro forma under the CEO section, we have mentioned about the transit revenue and gas tax, and also the cost associated with it. At this point in time, we are working with St. Catharines Transit, who does provide transit service for us. So we do not know at this point in time what would be the revenue loss and what would be the cost reduction as well. So once we have that information available, we will update the pro forma and let the council know. That is the reason it is a placeholder that we have mentioned that the transit revenue and also the cost is to be determined, and we are working on it. Thank you.
I'll turn that also over to to, one sec, our Director of Finance wants to speak on this, Maria Morrow.
No, that's okay, Mr. Mayor. I was going to speak on the Canada, the summer job program.
Okay, go ahead.
Just to let you know that the city has always participated in the Canada Summer Job Program. The original program, they give you 50% of the minimum wage for the students. But I can tell you it has never been 50% of all of our students because we only ever got $19,000 last year. So basically this is something that if it does come to fruition that they are going to pay for everyone or for part of it, I believe it is covered up in the report that we could use the funds to hire some of the students.
So the to be determined factor is we have to wait and see what comes after June the 30th?
Well, I think what the to be determined factor is at 50% funding, we were only getting $19,000 when, if you look at what the dollar value is for the students, it's $300,000.
Yeah.
So if it's 100% of the 19,000, what we're going to get is like 40 grand basically. So it comes down to, are they going to expand not just the 50 to 100%, but are they going to expand the number of students that they're going to cover as well? And that's what's to be determined.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hanley?
I may have another one if somebody else wants to speak first.
I got Councillor Sentence. Councillor Sentence, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, I read the report. I thought it was a great report. Good to see that we can keep our people working and not cost the taxpayers money. I'm excited about that. We can revisit everything at the end of June. I know I spoke with Maria earlier this week about that student issue because the universities aren't going to tell the students that school is free come the fall, so anything we can do, and if that does come to fruition, then on it and put money in Thorold kids' pockets for school next year. And I just want to thank staff for the report and everybody for continuing to work and work safely. So thank you very much.
Okay, and I got Councillor Kenny. And then Councillor DeRose after that.
Yes, hearing the discussion on the Canada getting the money back for the students, I think we might have to be careful. We do have a unionized workforce within the city, and I don't think they're going to allow people that are if we have anybody laid off, that we're going to be allowed to hire students. So we better be careful and make sure that we don't move forward on this, because I know down the road, who knows how many people are going to be you know what I'm saying? Like,
have we laid people off?
No,
Unionized employees?
not full-time, part-time.
Okay, good point. Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, just getting back to Mr. Hanley's, to Councillor Hanley's, through you, Mr. Mayor, getting back to Councillor Hanley's point about transportation. I'm just, I wanted to ask the appropriate staff member, probably CAO, have the bus routes been diminished or reduced since this Niagara College Rock are closed?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a reduction in service in one route which has been informed to us by our transit provider, St. Catharines Transit. That reduction in service has been posted on our website. So that's the only change that has happened. The buses are still plying even though the Niagara College students and Brock students are not there. It is for the benefit of the ones that we provide for the community. So the ridership is low, but the service is going on, and in certain cases the service frequency has been reduced. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Is there any way to monitor? Because I'd hate to see buses driving around with one or two people in them. I just think that if there's to the CAO, through you, Mr. Mayor, is there any way to monitor or to get numbers from the Transit Commission, how many people are actually using it in Thorold compared to before?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have been in touch with St. Catharines Transit. They are the ones who are providing services for us. We certainly can ask for that statistics as they are changing their work schedule on a regular basis. They are also adjusting their schedule for pandemic. Certainly, we can ask them to provide the statistics, what has been there for the previous year during this period, and then what is the ridership during this period of time. Certainly, we can get that information from St. Catharines Transit and provide to council. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Thorold? I've got Councillor Longo, and then I got Councillor Neal. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'll make a quick comment here. I asked for this report, and by no means was it to be punitive towards any city staff members. I just thought we needed to do our duty as a council to make sure that we were looking and trying to find savings because, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, the general public is, and small businesses are being crushed here, so we need to do our part. So I have a question for the Director of Finance. My concern here is property taxes. People are going to have a hard time paying their property taxes. I know there's deferrals in place, but do you have any indication on what we can expect in unclaimed taxes for this year?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we really don't know at this point because we had the interim taxes had 2 due dates. The first one was the end of March. The first one was the end of February, which was before this hit. The next one is not till April 30th. And I think at that point, that's when we're going to know if we're going to start to see a decline in the payment levels. So we should know in a few weeks what we can expect from a unpaid tax perspective and whether that has gone up or not.
Okay, and you'll be able to provide council with those stats, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, absolutely.
Okay, so my next question, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Finance. As everybody I'm sure is aware, we collect taxes for the region of Niagara and the school boards. We need to make payments to them. Have we been given any leniency in making payments to the region or to the school boards?
The school, through you, Mr. Mayor, the school board through the province, they have come forward. They have delayed the pay dates. Normally it's the end of every quarter. What they've done is they have delayed it by 90 days. So the next payment will be due the end of September. And then the final payment will be due, well, along with the other ones that have not been paid yet, will be due at the end of the year. So the school boards, there has been a deferral in the payment terms. The region at this point has not. On an informal basis, they've said that, you know, if we collect 50% of the taxes, we could remit 50% of the taxes, but that hasn't gone to regional council yet. That's just at the staff level. So I don't know if there's going to be anything more formal coming forward when the regional council does consider it.
I can tell you that regional council's dealing with that issue Thursday at the regional council meeting.
Okay. Thank you for that answer. So hopefully, Mr. Mayor, you can press the region because we're going to need to make some adjustments, I believe.
Well, the region, from, the feedback from all the mayors when we had our meeting is that's the point that everybody's going to ask them to match what the municipalities are doing.
Okay.
Anything else, Councillor Longo?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions, but I'm probably not going to ask them because again, I want to be fair to the taxpayer. I think we need to make sure we're cutting some things because we can't, it's not business as usual. And Mr. Mayor, I'll leave one comment to you since you do have a meeting on Thursday with the region. The Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce sent everybody an email, I believe, and Chair Bradley said that by June 30th, the pandemic is likely to have a cost to the regional government of $9 million in additional spending and lost revenue. Double-digit property tax increases can be avoided by bailouts from the provincial and our federal government. When I read that, it concerns me, and being a regional rep, there's only one taxpayer, And I believe if you can bring a message to the region that they need to look at their 3,900 employees and make sure everybody's doing essential work, because somehow we need to cut some costs, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. I will tell you that one of the major areas of the cost and is one reason why there'll be a big push on the province, especially, is public health. Okay? And then we will bring that message. I got Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I agree with Councillor Longo that we will be relooking at this report and revising it, because I think we are going to get hit as far as property taxes are not being paid are concerned. But we'll have a better idea after April and maybe even more after June in order to revise what we're trying to accomplish here tonight. And the one thing that I have is this summer, there's going to be a lot of parks, playgrounds and that. And since we're not hiring the staff that normally looks after cutting the grass and looking after all of our different types of parks, is there a plan in place to at least mitigate the grass growing and everything of that nature?
I'll get, Jeff, are you on there? Director of Public Works and Community Services. Do you want to answer that? Jeff? Is he?
I think he's having trouble putting his
Hello, can you hear me now?
Go ahead. Yeah, Jeff?
Thank you. Yes, so in the meantime, we are redeploying our staff to make sure that we can stay on top of the grass cutting. The biggest push would be the next 4 to 6 weeks, and then things will calm down a little bit during the hot summer months, and then it'll pick back up again. But we have been given some authority through the province to redeploy existing staff to whatever urgency needs to be addressed. Will it be enough? I'm not so sure. We'll have to wait and see what the weather has for us, but right now we have enough base staff to provide the current level of service that are prescribed by council.
Okay, Councillor?
Thank you.
Any more questions, Councillor Neal?
No, that's fine.
I had Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. One item was in regards to the library. What are we doing with the library and the employees at the library at this time? Another concern, that wasn't in the report that I wanted to bring up, if it was.
CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are in touch with the chief librarian. She did mention, and we have mentioned her, that she should reduce the staffing level as the libraries are currently closed. She is going to look into that and then provide her report to the board. They don't report to us, unfortunately, their staffing levels. But certainly I was in touch with the chief librarian and have asked her that she should also be contributing towards saving the cost and as the libraries are closed. So they are looking into it more comprehensively themselves, and then ultimately they will go to their board to provide what staffing levels. Thank you.
Do we need a director from council? There's a perfect example, as Councillor Longo stated, and I know some other council directors, that we need to look at ways and how we're going to try to cut bottom ends here if we can, and the library would be one, definitely. We actually fund the library, and not that we don't want to underfund it, but at the time as we're in right now, the predicament is we're paying people actually for sitting at home. That's another concern. And I got just a couple more things. And in regards to the 2020, if Jeff Holman's on the line still, I could through you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to the 2020 capital projects, I know we're going to stick with the budget. Have we put out requests for proposals, and are they on time or on schedule?
Mr. Mayor, yes, in fact, at this meeting on May 5th, we'll have 4 or 5 different reports with results from RFPs and tenders, looking for direction from council to proceed. So we're trying to get the work lined up so that we can put ourselves in a position to move ahead quickly if the situation presents itself.
Good. That's it. Okay, if I could, Mr. Mayor, and just on that note, if I could, just on, in regards to seasonal landscaping, in regards to the city, at the city's end of it, there's some, people are gonna be, you know, because they're staying at home and not being able to get out and that stuff, are gonna be looking like maybe actually getting some landscaping works done, but in regards to the essential services, I don't know if the city is aware, but landscaping and lawn care businesses are providing services strictly for safety, security, or sanitation purposes will be allowed. These services include lawn cutting, dethatching, rolling, cleaning yard and garden debris, and aeration. What it is that they're not going to allow people to be allowed having coming on their property and building decks and that stuff, and we need to, through the appropriate staff, maybe to have a look at this, because this may be an issue for people in regards to the upcoming season if they're still at home and not being able to do anything and having contractors coming to their properties. It's only allowed, like I said, under...
I'll turn that over to our city clerk. All the municipalities are working together on that, and I'll turn that over to...
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's going to be some communications out by the end of this week. It's just being finalized now across the region, dealing with that specific item, letting residents know what they can and cannot do under the current provincial orders.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And I had Councillor DeRose. Yep, go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Get your mute off, Karen.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Sorry about that. Just to reiterate on what Councillor Neal had said earlier, very important about the grass cutting. We've had a mild winter. The ticks are going to be horrendous this year. I'm praying they're not, but that's one reason that we have to be careful of the grass length in the community. And going back to what Councillor Longo had spoken about, we do have to make some tough decisions. He made a great point. It's not business as usual. And for a long time, it is not going to be business as usual. And we have to make tough decisions, as Councillor Hanley brought up in regards to the library. And there's other things we have to put under the microscope as much as we don't want to. But I'm trusting the CAO will direct staff to appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So that's anyone else?
Can I just add to that?
Do you want to add one thing? Go ahead.
I want to add one thing to Councillor DeRosa's comment about ticks. There is a region-wide campaign that's going to be going out in the newspapers, I believe this week, or it could be next week, about essential service and why we're doing it, which is to reduce ticks and all of those types of things. So just watch for the newspapers, radio ads coming very, very soon.
Okay. So I have that motion by Councillor Longo, seconded by Councillor DeRose. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. PWCS 2020-09, mover Councillor Sentence, seconder Councillor Longo. The Thorold BIA City Maintenance Partnership, and I'll turn that over to Jeff Holman.
Okay, I'll try the voice again.
You're coming through.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor. The staff recommendation is that council defer its decision to enter into a maintenance partnership with the downtown BIA pending the completion of the front station.
What happened? Jeff, are you done?
I'm finished. Did you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, is there any questions for Jeff regarding that particular item? I got Councillor DeRose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Jeff, can I just ask you, I'm looking at, after reading the report, and I noticed the last page, I'm just wondering why it seems like our city does less for BIA than other communities in the comparison on the chart that you provided us. And so is there a reason for that this has gone on for that long, or is it just, are the others doing above and beyond what we should be doing, or?
Go ahead, Jeff.
My button's backwards, sorry. Mr. Mayor, yeah, great question. I think the history has been that we had a legal opinion suggesting that any additional funds spent on any part of the community might be considered to be bonusing. But since that time, a lot of the provincial regulations and rules have changed. In fact, our own official plan talks about being able to provide certain grants and like facade grants and things like that through the community improvement program to encourage business. And so I know this is happening in other municipalities, and with a little bit of research, we brought this forward. Unfortunately, the area that we would like to work with the BIA may be the subject of major capital project, and so it doesn't make sense to talk about that now. But maybe when we're finished and we know what features are included in the project, we can talk about who does what and who's paying.
So basically, this will come back to council at that time, okay? Is any more?
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Any more questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. PWCS 2020-19, mover Councillor Neal, seconder Councillor Kenny, on the 2020 Community Grants Program. And again, I'll turn this over to Jeff Holman, our Director of Public Works and Community Services.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that applicants, including council committees making submissions for the 2020 Community Grants Program, be invited to resubmit by May 31st, 2020, reflecting any changes to their planned programs for the balance of the year.
Any questions for Jeff regarding this? I got Councillor Neal.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I agree with this because I think you'll find that although 3 of the recommendations that were made in the body of the report were canceling a lot of the program funding that we have funded for the organizations, that you'll find, and when they submit their reports, that they're in bad shape also, and we'll be looking for cooperation and maybe major funding from the city regarding their programs.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. PWS 2020-13, I have a mover, Councillor Decker, and a seconder, Councillor DeRose, and it's on the Hohinakara UNESCO Global Geopark, and I don't know if I pronounced that right, but and again, I'll turn that over to our manager of planning, Denise Landry.
Through the mayor, just want to check that everyone can hear me. I'm using my phone versus the computer.
Yep.
Perfect. So through the mayor, the recommendation is that council endorse the Hohinakara Aspiring Global Geopark project and application, and direct staff to prepare a letter of the endorsement. This concludes the report.
Does there anyone have any questions regarding this report? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Denise, it says there's no financial obligation. Will that change in the future?
Through the mayor to the councillor, if the committee would like to ask for funding from council, they would have to come back to council and specifically ask for that. Endorsing the application does not commit council to any funding.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. PDS 2020-14, I have a mover, Councillor Wilson, a seconder, Councillor Decker, and it's the DC exemption bylaw budget. And again, I'll turn this over to our manager of planning, Denise Landry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations of the report are that council approve a cost overrun for the preparation of the DC exemption bylaw in the amount of $2,147.50, HST excluded. And the second recommendation is that the cost overrun be funded from the available budget from the Port Robinson West Neighborhood Plan. And this concludes the report.
Okay, is there any questions for Denise regarding this report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? carried. PDS 2020-17, I have a mover, Councillor DeRose, and a seconder, Councillor Decker, and it's relating to the assignment of the Artisan Ridge Tax Increment-Based Grant Program Agreement. And again, I'll turn this over to our Manager of Planning, Denise Landry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations of the report are that council approve the assignment of the tax increment grant agreement for 181 Queen Street and 1686 Beaver Dams Road, Artisan Ridge subdivision, and from Associated Brownfields Incorporated to Downing Street, Artisan Ridge Incorporated, and that council directs staff to prepare a bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement. This concludes the report.
Do you have any questions for Denise on this particular item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. PDS 2020-19, I have a mover, Councillor Handley, and a seconder, Councillor Neal, and it's regarding the minor variance application for 2635 Merrittville Highway, and again, I'll turn this over to Denise Landry. Go ahead, Denise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the recommendations contained in the attachment are supported and approved by council. This concludes the report.
Is there any questions for Denise regarding this particular item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Are you opposed or for it, Carmen? Councillor DeRose? For, okay. Carried. Now we have PDS 2020-20, and Councillor Longo, you declared a conflict on this, so we're going to cut you out on this one. I need a mover because it was Councillor Longo. Can I get a mover here? I got Councillor Decker, and a seconder I have Councillor Sentence. And this is regarding the minor variance application for 2320 Highway 20. And again, I'll turn this over to our Manager of Planning, Denise Landry. Go ahead, Denise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council was just sent an email via the clerk regarding comments that were provided on this application by the funeral home just to the north of the property. Just wanted to let council know that staff will be working with the adjacent landowner to address any concerns they have through the site plan process. And the recommendations of this report are that the recommendations contained within the Appendix 1 be supported and approved by council. And this concludes the report.
So what you have here is what Denise has said is that the issue would be addressed on site plan. Am I correct regarding the comments received?
To the mayor, that is correct. We just received these comments approximately 30 minutes ago or just prior to the council meeting. And I took a look at them, and there shouldn't be any issues working with the neighboring property to address them.
Okay, so is there any questions for Denise regarding that? I have Councillor Kenny.
My only question would be, what if there is an issue? Like, shouldn't we wait and see if this can be worked out? The cemetery does have some issues with this. So shouldn't they be worked out before we move forward?
Through the mayor to the councillor, the concerns that are brought forward by the neighboring property are not related to the minor variance application. They're asking for additional open space to be provided between the property lines and their property. I looked at the site plan, and there is significant open space provided there already. They have also asked for a fence to be provided along the property line, and that is something that the applicant would have to agree to do, as it's not a requirement of the zoning bylaw. But the request by the neighboring property, they're not the subject of the minor variance application. The minor variance is looking at reducing parking as well as allowing a clinic on the property.
Okay. Councillor Kenny, are you good with that? Because what she's telling you is it's not related to the minor variance. Okay,
I just want to make sure, because we do have a property owner here that's been a long time, and I just want to make sure that their concerns are addressed, that's all.
Very good. Good point. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll bring Councillor Longo back. Councillor Longo, welcome back.
Thank you.
So now we're on to CC 2020-20. I have a mover, Councillor Sentence, and a seconder, Councillor Kenny. And it's regarding the proposed sale of city property, Towpath Road, part of Township Lot 222. And I'll turn this over to our city clerk, Donna Delvecchio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's recommended that council direct staff to proceed with the process to declare Part 1 on part of Township Lot 222 on Towpath Road on RP 59R-16125, surplus to the city's needs, and that a bylaw be presented at the May 5th, 2020 meeting declaring the property surplus. That concludes the recommendations.
Are there any questions for our city clerk? I do have Councillor Neal here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just the price of the property, are we going to know that with the next report?
Through you,
What are we
Mr.
selling it for?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, this is the first step, that we declare it surplus, and then we order the appraisal from there.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Longo.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if we get an appraisal, do we still have to sell it once we give this notice?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, you do not. Council has the opportunity to vote when we do have the appraisal, if they wish to proceed.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Longo?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I got Councillor Hanley. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, just had to unmute, sorry about that. Actually, it says that it's a traveled road allowance. Is there services there? Is there water, sewer nearby, or can it be serviced?
This road allowance backs onto the rear yards of the subdivision. There are services in that area, and there are no objections from any of the service providers in the sale of this land. It's already been circulated to them.
Thank you, I'm just looking at value-wise, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Notices of motion? Okay, we'll move on to bylaws. First reading of bylaws, I have Councillor Sentence, seconded by Councillor Hanley. Go ahead, Councillor. Is he going to read them, or do I read them? Okay, and I'll read them. That's bylaw 38-220, bylaw 53-2020, bylaw 54-2020, bylaw 55-2020, and bylaw 56-2020. And now they're read a first time. I don't have the rest of the script here in front of me, but
They've read it first time, a second time.
now read the first time. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Final reading of bylaws. Moved by Councillor Sentence, seconded by Councillor Hanley. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll get better next as we move along here. Adjournment. I've got Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Decker, that this meeting is hereby adjourned at 6:28.
7:28.
Oh, 7:28, because I'm looking, we haven't changed the clock in the council chambers yet. I was going to say, no way that meeting was that fast. Anyways, this meeting's hereby adjourned. I want to thank everybody. I think we did pretty good for our first Zoom council meeting, and I look forward to our next one. Thank you.
Not bad. Take care, everybody.
God bless.
everyone.
Stay safe.
Good night.
Good night.
Add to my friend.